This video is brought to you by the letter D for desert. This year's International Conference on Men's Issues, ICMI 2019, is going to be hosted by myself, Alison, and the Honey Badger Brigade. It'll be coming back to North America to Chicago, Illinois, August 16th, 17th, and 18th. This year, we'll be having a limited number of accommodation-inclusive tickets, so you are guaranteed a room within an easy 3-minute walk of the venue. We have already confirmed a fantastic list of speakers, including returning speaker Janice Fiamengo as a keynote, British MP Philip Davis, and some new faces including Dr. Sean T. Smith, the author of the Tactical Guide to Women. If you want to find out more or to get a ticket, go to icmi.info. Act quickly. We have an early bird rate on till March 1st, and the accommodations tickets are going fast. It is an honor to take on the task of managing the largest international gathering of men's issues enthusiasts in the world. And I'm probably the worst person to take it on, because I don't think we'll ever convince the mainstream to care about men's issues. In 2015, I did a lecture at the Simon Fraser University in Vancouver on what I call the negative-sum game. Quite simply, the negative-sum game is this. If there are 50 victims, 50 female victims of an issue, we care. But if we add another 50 male victims of the same issue, we don't double our compassion and our funding, nor do we halve it and split it between the male and female victims. We stop caring about the issue entirely. We stop giving funding or compassion to any victim, male or female. We care about issues when we see them targeting women because they're women, and that requires removing male victims from the picture entirely. And when we bring male victims back in, we just stop caring entirely. When I explain the negative-sum game, understandably, a lot of men's rights advocates were devastated. They said, how can we make any progress if the moment male victims are recognized, everyone stops caring entirely? That's a real black, bitter pill to swallow for anyone who has dedicated a significant amount of their personal time and effort and hope to getting men's issues recognized. And that would include me.
You've been living in a dream world, Neo. This is the world as it exists today.
Welcome to the desert of the real.
The negative-sum game, the need to ignore the situation of men to assert that women are victims because they're women, comes out of a combination of our instinct to protect and provide for women and an additional social factor. That additional social factor is the loss of a moral organizing principle in God. As we stopped being part of environments that were more defined by the mysteries and vagaries of nature and started to be in environments defined by the laws of science and machines, we stopped having that basis for a lay belief in God. Because of these social changes, in 1837, Charles Fourier coined feminism, which was the idea that society should be judged by how well it benefits women, and women alone. Any other time, it would have been a blasphemous idea, but it was an idea that found just the right time to be expressed. And we can see this attitude clearly in the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women World Map. Boy, is that a mouthful. It measures those societies capable of benefiting women most, and women alone as most moral. And it is really women alone, because they only measure up to equality. Any situation where women aren't equal to men is considered a deficit for women. Any situation where women have it better than men is considered equality. Look at the CEDAW map and look at how well it corresponds to wealth. Essentially, all it's measuring is wealth, and its finding, shocking finding, is that wealthy women are better off than poor women. Welcome to the world of judging the world by women's benefit. Now, over time, this thinking generates a distorted idea in media, academia, government. If you judge society by how well it benefits women, inevitably you are only going to see how it does not benefit women. That distortion is the unquestioned and unquestionable belief that society unfairly benefits men over women. That is, us, we prefer to see women take bullets in order to save men. We prefer to see women starve in order to feed men. We prefer to see women suffer in order to bring men the luxuries of modern living. And it is we who are doing this because society is the sum of our collective choices, and you cannot get away from that conclusion. Look at the chaos created by Stockholm's gender-equal snow removal plan.
And here's another bus driver who can't drive. What the hell? Oh no, here's another one. Oh shit, oh crap, it's leaning. And here a third bus.
Stockholm's snow removal intervention started from an unquestioned premise that society is structured to benefit men over women in unfair ways. If they hadn't started from this premise, they might have thought through their intervention and realized the reason why men's routes are prioritized is because men are getting up at 4:30 in the morning, cold, tired, and hungry, and doing the dangerous and dirty work of keeping society running. These men couldn't actually walk or bike to work because most jobs that pay enough for a man to afford a woman's choice to stay at home and bike to her hair appointment take a longer commute. They require a longer commute. And you can't commute by a bike or walking to a trade or first responder job because then you're coming to your job exhausted and you need to be physically capable of doing your job. So this gender equal intervention was anything but justified and only introduced inefficiencies in running the city and likely caused more pollution, since men who can't do anything but use cars, they don't have a choice, they have to commute using cars to get to work, are spending more time idling in traffic or getting into traffic accidents due to unsafe road conditions.
So this truck has been standing here for hours and hours. Poor dude. Well, he's not in it, I hope.
When a record snowfall happened, these inefficiencies turned fatal. Stockholm had to switch from their so-called gender-equal system to a system prioritizing men's routes. As anyone who has organized anything can attest, it's almost impossible to change procedure in the middle of a crisis. So no doubt the switchover itself caused chaos. And no one who proposed the original gender-equal snow removal took that object lesson and accepted that their premise was wrong. Men weren't prioritized because they were men. They were prioritized because they were more essential to the running of the city.
A half hour ago, about 10:30, I was here. I passed this, but I couldn't film it because it was so hectic.
This is how the people who promote the gender-equal snow removal plan describe it, even after that object lesson. Quote, "Gender-equal snow clearing is indeed a thing in Sweden. It is nowhere near as silly as many think." I don't think it's silly, my friend. I think it's dangerous. It's ugly. It's barbaric. And it's bigoted. I think silly is being charitable. The point is that the people who plan to work tend to be men who drive their own cars. You mean the people who are planning? What a surprise. The people who are planning how to run the city are men. And the people who are running the city are the men. The people who are maintaining the roads are men. The people who are the first responders, mostly men. And they're prioritizing the running of this. It gets better. It gets better. The point is that the people who plan the work tend to be men, who drive their own cars. When they decide where to clear first, they have unconsciously and with the best intentions considered their own needs. Where do I drive? On what roads do I and my pals drive?
A truck. Not only this truck was here. Oh, there is another one, yes, and the police were here, and there they are.
Rather than considering the society as a whole.
The police was in other place, but here they are now. And there's another truck over there.
Which is why, when you gender equal snow clearing advocates got your way, you had to reverse it, because clearing the snow for men was actually considering the functioning of society as a whole and putting it first. But no, you never rethought that, did you? The proponents of this disastrous policy will never question their belief that somehow men's benefit is structured over society's benefit. And when they say society, they mean women, because it makes no sense to say that men are benefited but society is not benefited, because unless you think that men aren't part of society, which apparently they do. What's incredible is that these people still have jobs. These people still have jobs, my friends. In fact, they are more likely to keep their job than anyone who points out the following. Removing snow from men's routes wasn't an unfair benefit for men. It was a necessary concession to enable men's sacrifice for the benefit of everyone. In fact, when we see men supposedly benefiting, we might want to take a closer look and see if those so-called benefits aren't also concessions to enable men's sacrifice for the benefit of women. Now we have the American Psychologists Association taking aim at traditional masculinity, at how we've structured men's identities in our society to unfairly advantage men over women. Again, that unquestioned belief that society is unfairly structured to benefit men over women rears its ugly head. The APA hasn't once appeared to consider that how men's identities are structured might have something to do with the successful functioning of our society, or facilitating men's sacrifice for a successfully functioning society. Okay, just like Stockholm, the APA doesn't have to consider that removing the snow first from men's identities, routes, might just be necessary to keep the city functioning. No, they know the truth. The truth is that any benefit men have, including having their own identity, an identity women by definition cannot have, must be illegitimate and harmful. Illegitimate and harmful to women. And also men, because it couldn't be the greater sacrifice expected of men. That's the reason for men's worse mental health outcomes. It couldn't be that men are carrying more, which is why they're getting injured more. No, it has to be because men have such contempt for women, they refuse to use women's superior ways of doing mental health, and therefore men have inferior mental health. And all of this because our society unfairly benefits men over women, so we can't even acknowledge men's sacrifice for the benefit of society. Because we can't acknowledge men's sacrifice for the benefit of society, we cannot justify accommodating it. Oh, that's not going to end in tears. When the APA guidelines cause even more men to check out of society or life, do you think they're going to realize their mistake? No. Just like those politicians from Stockholm who advocated quote-unquote gender equal snow removal. They're going to see it as a fluke and move on to their next way to end how society unfairly benefits men over women. And we're going to keep doing Stockholm over and over again because the powers that be can't learn from their mistake. Instead, they lie about reality and keep doing what they're doing. The powers that be can't face the negative-sum game. They can't face the desert of the real. Here's another story about a desert. It's a story about a man named Lawrence of Arabia and a desert called the Nephud. Lawrence was leading an Arab rebellion of a couple hundred ragtag Bedouin, many who never had fired a rifle before, against a larger, better equipped, and modern Turkish army. This is Lawrence describing the Nephud desert. We could not lightly draw water after dark, for there were snakes swimming in the pools or clustering in knots around their brinks. Twice puff adders came twisting into the alert ring of our debating coffee circle. 3 of our men died of bites. 4 recovered after great fear and pain and a swelling of the limb. Bedouin treatment was to bind up the part with a snake plaster and read chapters of the Quran to the sufferer until he died. Imagine the despair, looking upon a land that might as well be death itself. But the impossibility of crossing the Nafud opened up an opportunity for Lawrence. The Turks thought that no one could be crazy enough to cross the Nafud, so they never expected an attack from that direction. That's how Lawrence led his little band of Bedouin to victory against a force that outnumbered them. The Turks lived by a rule. The desert can't be crossed. Lawrence broke that rule, and he won against impossible odds. The powers that be in our society live by the rule that you cannot defy the negative-sum game. You cannot motivate people unless it's to save women. The Nafud, the desert of the real, the negative-sum game. Look on these impossible obstacles and despair, right? No. The negative-sum game, the desert of the real, is just an obstacle to human freedom. And if you look at human history, it's a fool's game to bet on the obstacle winning rather than human freedom. One day, everyone in our society, everyone, will have to cross the desert of the real. They'll have to face the negative-sum game. Or we will simply Stockholm our society to death. I'm going to verb Stockholm because it's so ridiculous. They will have to face the questions that come at them in the desolation, in the dark, in the whistling wind. Weak men. They'll embrace pain to avoid fear, and call enduring that pain courage. What does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a woman? Who am I? What motivates me? If you're listening to me now, you are able to look at the desert of the real, and some of you can go further. You are able to keep moving forward. You are able to walk into the negative-sum game. You have invested something of yourself in men's issues, your time, your resources. You have defied the negative-sum game. All you men's issues advocates, you men's rights activists, you have been mocked by the media and called cowards. The desert of the real is desolate, and so you found solace in yourself and your companions. It is despairing, and so you've learned to find hope in despair. It is terrifying, so you have learned to overcome fear. The desert of the real, like all harsh and difficult places, forces you to look to yourself for answers. And that's the scariest thing of all. You have made the desert of the real your home. You cannot lose hope because you are hope. You are proof that the desert can be crossed. I may be the worst person for the job, but I am honored to be hosting the largest gathering of people capable of crossing the desert of the real in the world. Yes, the negative-sum game exists. Yes, that means men's issues will never find traction in the mainstream. But our future lies beyond the desert of the real, which means the mainstream will eventually have to find traction with us. And in the meantime, let's all us nomads come together, break bread, form our debating coffee circles, and enjoy the fact that we do not have to deal with the bullshit that they do on the other side of the desert of the real. Welcome to the International Conference for Men's Issues, 2019. If you want to join us, I always get this wrong. No, tickets are over here somewhere. And if you want to support, there are options here. And if you want more information, the link is in the low bar. See you there. Here's the quick and dirty cliff notes to that video. Essentially, society is obsessed with the notion that society itself is structured to unfairly benefit men over women. But the only places where we still benefit men over women is when doing so is necessary for the survival and running of society. And we are now attacking everywhere where this is occurring, which is actually necessary for the running of society, which is not good, it's not sustainable. The only people who can really solve that problem are the people who manage to maintain their sense of motivation outside the narrative of saving women. And that would be us.